Hello, all you beautiful, wonderful, amazing, spectacular tea people, wherever you are in the world. I hope you are doing wonderfully, wonderfully well. I am here in Taiwan and I am thankfully very busy. I am busy and I have been busy for the last little while packing up the tea that you amazing people have bought from us, which supports me and my family and all of that stuff. And I appreciate it greatly and thank you very much. The second thing is I have not been on social media too much last little while because the other day I went to see my friend and I saw something that absolutely blew my mind, which might change the tea industry in Taiwan completely. Uh, Impacted a lot in the next couple years. And I will be talking about that, and we're going to be getting into that, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. First, I'm going to show you this tea. I'm going to be drinking this tea. This is a hard tea to brew. This was sent to me by a buddy of mine, and I want to show you the actual tea leaves and what the actual tea leaves look like because they're red. This is actually it's a Taiwanese grown it's a Taiwanese grown dankong. So you can actually see the red color of the leaves, sort of. I guess you can sort of see that. You can sort of see, yeah. You can sort of see. Anyways, so this is an extremely hard tea to brew, and I'm gonna have some fun and try and see if I can pull it off and show you sort of the taste characteristics that's going on with this thing. Now, why have I been? Why is this hitting me so hard? So my buddy and why this is in like my backyard, uh, like being managed by my best tea buddy in Taiwan. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on with this, and I know that other people know about it, but I don't know how widespread it is right now. How many people know that this thing even exists? But I went to go see my buddy. He's like, it's here. I got to take you to go and see it. I said, okay, let's go, because I've heard rumors about what's going to happen. And wow, look at that! It's like a red color. So this is really really interesting. It's a Taiwanese dankong. Dankong is the trees. Like they grow up as trees, and he's got these as trees. And it's really really expensive. And I don't know whether I'm gonna buy it, but I'm gonna try it out. And if I can brew it like this, then I'm gonna buy it. And if it tastes good, anyways, I'm going to go see my buddy. And so he's like, let's go. Okay, get in the car. We go to this place. We drive for about, I don't know, about 10 minutes away from his tea garden. We drive away. And we get to the spot that I know very, very well. Like this is it's a hot spring area. I know this area really, really well. And we go down some side streets, and then there's this big, huge warehouse. And he's like, let's go in. So we go into this big warehouse. And there is this machine. And this thing is, it's 2 stories tall. And it's maybe like, if you take it here, it was sort of arranged in an L shape. But it was maybe probably in total at least 100 meters long, I would say, maybe around 100 meters. So you got 100 meters of 2 story tall machinery sort of built into an L. And this thing is the only one in Asia that makes oolong tea. It's the only one in Asia that makes oolong tea. And what it is a massive, huge industrial tea making machine. And what this thing is, it does everything. And when I say everything, I literally mean everything. You take in the fresh leaves that were just picked. There's this spot. You throw the leaves in. It goes, drops them down, weighs them out into the perfect amounts, right? So it weighs the tea into the perfect amounts. Then it goes into the machine, and then the machine goes through the wilting phase, the rolling phase, the whatever the heck else you want to do phase. It's got the fixing phase. If you want to do that, you don't have to do it. It makes white tea, green tea, oolong tea, red oolong tea, Baozong tea, black tea, everything. 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 It makes everything. And it's from the start to the end. It usually takes about 8 hours, give or take. And you just press a button, and then there is an app. There is an app. And you type in what type of tea you want. You type in what type of, you can have the strip, you can have the ball, you can have the really, 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 really tight ball. You can have a loose ball. You can literally, with the little slider go, this is how much I want. This is how much I don't want. The oxidization, everything just goes in. Now, it hasn't been popularized earlier. Well, I'll get into why it hasn't been popularized earlier, and why it's in my neck of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. The middle of nowhere. Okay, that first steep didn't have too much other than color in it, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, this Dankong is like, there's nothing else in Taiwan that even comes close to this. It's literally Roselle. So if you've ever had the Roselle, that's the smell and sort of the feel that comes off of this. Tart, sweet, and really, really, really sour. Anyways, fascinating tea. So let me put it out there so you guys really, 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 really understand why this can completely change the tea industry in Taiwan. If you have a flat garden, or a garden that's accessible for, well, actually any real garden that's accessible for machine cutting, right? So you can cut it with the machine. So some of the places there's only one person that does it. Some of the places, you have to have two people that do it. You machine cut the tea. You put it into a bag. You put it onto a truck. You take it to the factory. You place it into the machine. You press the button, and you walk away. Then you go back to the tea garden, and then you cut the tea again, and then you bring it back. Now, just to give you a scale of this tea, just how big this thing is, right? And this is the thing that's blowing my mind. It absolutely blows my mind, and I cannot even really, it's like exponential ideas. This thing has 8-hour shifts, and during an 8-hour shift, if you constantly feed it tea, it can do 1 ton of tea. 1 ton of tea every 8 hours. Hey man, how's it going? And so if you get 3 8-hour shifts going, you can make in a 24-hour period 3 tons of tea. 3 tons of tea in a 24-hour period. And you can make any type of tea. You could theoretically get it ready for sun drying to make pu'er. Right? It's insane. It's insane. And what I just described, one person can do it. One person can do it. So what does that mean? That means somebody can get the Japanese tea stuff. They can get in there. They can drive it to the place. They can get the tea, take it there in their own truck, right? Put it in the machine, go back out to the field, do it again. And one person could theoretically, I mean, it's hard, right? Only one person, but theoretically one person could do 3 tons of tea in a day, right? So one person could do 3 tons of tea in a day. And they could monitor everything on their phone while they're back in the field going in one of those machines cutting the tea leaves. And the machine that they had there, there's a new one that they just got that's like a bigger version of this thing. And what it does, it's got 3 blades. And the first blade, what it does, it cuts the tea. The second blade cuts it back to the next time you want to come and do the tea again. And then on the sides, right, it's got a third one that could do more. And then on the sides, it's got these 2 big hooks that tills the soil. And so this big old machine could only go through once every 3 months, pick the tea, cut it back, and then no one would have to go into this garden and do anything at all. You have to go in and check, obviously, but theoretically, you just wouldn't have to do it. One person could do hundreds of tons of tea. Now that won't happen, but it's possible. It's just insane. It's just insane. I mean, I get that it's changing the landscape, but if they make it so that the machine makes good tea, like progress, well, this is exactly the point. Exactly the point. And this is what I want to talk about, right? Because this is where we're going. Now, why is this thing, this, huge, massive, amazing machine in a small town on the east coast of Taiwan? Well, because it's terrifying. One person can make 3 tons of tea. Whole farms that I know, that I buy tea from, make a couple 100 kilograms of tea in a year. A couple 100 kilograms of tea in a year. This thing, this massive thing, can make 3 tons of tea in a day with one person. And so what's happened is this machine is stuck here as a test. And it's literally in my backyard. And it's stuck here as a test because in a place like Mingjian, in a place like Nantou on the other side of the island, if one of these things showed up, it would be firebombed. It would be destroyed. It would be, the controversy would just be insane. It would be insane. The controversy would just be like, I can barely describe to you how crazy it would be, right? You know, that where we get the term Luddite, right? This is what would be happening with the tea industry with this machine. And we're at the situation now where we are at that breaking phase. We are at that where the two, demographics is over here, demand for tea and population is over here, and we're just at that earthquake phase, right? One's going to slip over the other, right? One's going to slip over the other. So when you're looking at the demographics, is that going to, destroy it so we get no tea, or are we going to get this technology and this other stuff that's going to boom, and the demographics are not going to matter, and we're still going to have the same amount of tea, right? I guess it could just enable smaller productions, but also vaporizes all the labor positions. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Boom, gone overnight. Now, we're walking around this thing. My jaw's just like, and I'm like, why is this here? And then this is why I figured out why this is here, is because, and I don't know if you can hear them. I'll show you guys later, but I moved a hive of bees. There's a hive of bees about 1 meter away from me right here. Hopefully you guys can hear it in the live stream. But I'll show you the ladies in a minute. But it smells so nice, and I just love the feel of bees. Anyways, there's bees right there. So my buddy, he has brought in all these machines, and he's brought in all this machine because this area is a bunch of aunties. They're Aboriginal aunties, and they've been picking forever, but nobody, there's no young people in the village. There are, they're getting up in age. They don't want to work every day and pick the tea. They know that average wages are raising all over the place. So they want more money, and they want to work less. And so my buddy has good tea, and he's like, he needs skilled pickers to pick the tea, and he just can't do it. Right. It's like here. So this machine comes in, and then they say to the picking eyes, they say, hey eyes, right? Like, you pick, 2 days a week, we make some competition tea out of that. The rest of it goes to this big ass monstrosity of a machine, and we'll pay you even more money, and it'll be fine. And everybody's like, okay, we're good. No problem at all. But if you were looking at something on the other side of the island in the higher elevations where you have whole generations of labor, right? So when we're talking about labor, we're talking about the people who pick the tea, the people who drive the tea to the factories, the people who own the factories, the people who rent the factories, the people who rent the factories to the people who can't afford to own or rent the factories, the tea masters, right? The tea masters that are in there that travel around to each place because they're tea masters. Then you have all of the families and all of the different, the temples and the families and the politics and all the things that are intricately tied to that entire tea industry that would be completely wiped out by this machine. Completely wiped out. And so if you're looking at, you know, like I said, one person can do, theoretically, one person, yeah, anyways, let's say two tons of tea in a day, one person. Right? It would take some preparation, but they could do it. One person could do 2 tons of finished tea in a day. Big old machine cuts the tea, they put it on the truck, they bring it to the factory, they put it in this machine, 8 hours later, boom, you got finished tea coming out the end. When you start thinking about how this works for all of these different things, right? Now, if it was the same price, right? If it was the same price, so you would have, say, for example, you know, you have to sell this tea, you do it all by hand, it's 100 kilograms, you know, $100 a kilogram. And then over here, you do it in the machine, it's $100 a kilogram. Who cares? It's fine, right? Say the levels are the same, it's not going to impact anything. But we're looking at a 10x drop in price. 10x drop in price. Right? So you're looking at production styles, production 10x less. Now, like I said, this machine is the only one that makes oolong tea in Asia. Now, I want to say in the world because I don't know why there would be another one of these machines anywhere else in the world, because Asia is where you make tea. But anyways, whatever. That's what I was told. It's the only one in the Asia that is set up for oolong tea. Now, there's ones that make green tea, right? So there's one that make green tea, but there's only one that makes oolong. And it's in my backyard, and I'm going to have access to this tea. Now, here's the question everybody's going to ask. What's the tea like? What is the tea like? And I've had it. So I've had the tea. And it's only run once, right? And it was my buddy, one person, running the tea once. This thing had never been run before here in, well, I'm assuming it's never really been run before here. And he made an oolong, sort of a greenish oolong, that very, very obviously you looked at it and you're like, what's up with the rolling here? The rolling's a little bit weird. Right? The rolling it's not quite right. It looks a little weird. But I've seen teas like that before that are I've seen teas like that before that are really cheap. And there are machines that do that. You roll it like, anyways, whatever. Try the tea. And it was okay. It was okay. Like it was. Now I've had machines, I've had tea from machines like this, not exactly like this. Not exactly like this, but tea similar to this from machines that are similar to this. And there is a starchy, sort of chemically plasticky flavor that comes out the end. This flavor was sort of there, but not really. Not really. Not as much as some of the other teas that I've had from machines that are similar to this. Older generations of teas that are similar to this. And it was okay. It would be a tea for the Western market that would be exponentially better than any other oolong that you would get sort of around, right? So if you went to like supermarket tea, you get a supermarket oolong, that stuff. Now, I haven't been back to North America for a very long time, but I'm assuming that if you bought an oolong in a supermarket, you would get 5-year-old, heavily roasted, loosely rolled balls of poop. That's basically what it would be, right? Just poop. This was noticeably and identifiably Taiwanese oolong. Now, I should have taken more because I tried the tea before I saw the machine. And I should have taken more, and I should be sampling this tea and really sort of getting a deep dive into it. But it was the first batch. It was the first batch. It was the dry run. It was like, I'm gonna go. My buddy says I'm gonna go. He just goes and picks some tea, brings it back, throws it in the machine. This on his phone, and boom! 8 hours later, this tea comes out the back, and it's passable. It's passable. Now, on the 16th or the 17th, depends on the weather, I'm going to go there and I'm going to watch this thing in action. I'm going to go and help out. I'm going to go and I'm going to go and see what's going on with this thing, this monster. And I'm still sort of recovering from all of the thoughts going through my head about this machine. You know, like, it's crazy. This one tea, you know, this thing covers 10 to 85%. You know, basically it knocks back the production cost of a tea about 85%. And it knocks back the labor 85%. And that's a generous, you know, sort of thing. And so what we're looking at is, and again, you know, I study macroeconomics, and I study, you know, AI, and I study all these different things. Like, I study all of these interlocking narratives and these interlocking technologies and all these interlocking things. And this thing, it's demographics. It is, you know, macroeconomics. It is, so my buddy says, oh, it wasn't that good this time. And then you know what he said? But we haven't added in the AI yet. Now, I know what AI is. I study it. I play around with it. As it comes to lay people, I'm one of the, I would call myself an expert on AI and what it can do. And so when he says that we haven't added AI to it, I mean, that's kind of like, there's not going to be some her voice that comes out and says, you know, your tea is ready, sir. You know, like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about AI. But basically what we're talking about AI is every single stretch of this machine. So you put it in, it weighs out how much tea goes next, right? So you say 1 kilogram of loose leaf goes to the wilting phase here. They flip it over, goes to the wilting phase there, flip it over, goes to the wilting phase here. And they've got enough things that you can stick like hundreds of kilograms at a time, wilting all at the same time. And so what the AI would do, and it's not really AI, it's just algorithms, advanced algorithms that would, you know, I don't know all the details yet, but I'm pretty sure there is a camera that looks at the tea leaves, that measures, you know, all of the different things as it goes through. You would be able to say to this thing, you know, the first step, I want this. The first step, I want that. And then it would, and then at the end you would rate it. And then it would, over time, as you went through, you would say, you'd put in the weather, and you would put in the type of tea, and you would put in the type of tea that you want to do. And then it would have all of these suggested ways of doing it for you, right? They would have all these suggested, you know, it's just an algorithm, right? It's not super AI. It's just that now we have the compute to be able to put all of those things together, turn them into tokens, throw them into a tea, anyways, a token machine. It's not an LLM, obviously, but using transformers. And anyways, you'd put it into this thing, and then it would pop out the recommended time wilting, the recommended time doing this, the recommended time doing that, all of these recommended times. And, you know, theoretically, if you had more of these machines, then you would have this constant improvement of the tea by people rating the teas, right? And you could hook it up to consumer rating sites and all sorts of different things. Anyways, that's just in my mind. But this thing is going to be hooked up to quote unquote AI. So again, to recap, what the hell am I talking about? I am talking about a machine that is the size of an apartment building, that you put in the freshly cut leaf, you press a button, and 8 hours later you get finished tea. And not only do you get finished tea, you could have finished white tea, finished green tea, finished oolong, strip oolong, ball rolled oolong, Dongding style oolong. Um, Actually, I don't know if it has a roaster. I bet you it doesn't have a roaster, but it might. It certainly has a dryer. Uh, so it has, but it probably doesn't have a roaster. Anyways, but mid oxidized, red oolong strips, red oolong balls, red oolong little tiny balls, loosely rolled balls. It is 10:09, so now the airplanes are coming in. So again, if I'm doing a live stream and the airplanes don't come in at 10:09, then that should be a little worried about that. Anyways, I'm talking about the what I've been talking about for the last 25 minutes is this thing that has completely blown my mind into little tiny pieces that I saw the other day. And forgive me, when I'm packing tea, it's air conditioned, so this is not an issue. But we are almost mid-June, and I'm drinking hot tea in a Taiwanese springtime outside. The bees beside me here are just absolutely, they're so happy. I mean, you should see all the different colored pollen that they're bringing in right now. Anyways, I'll show a picture of the bees in a minute. But this machine that is going to be in my backyard that I will have access to the tea for, where selling a decent quality ball rolled Taiwanese oolong for $50 a kilogram is the upper end of the price range. Kilogram. And so, like I said before, if this was in anywhere else in Taiwan, in like a tea growing area of Taiwan, it would be the controversy, it'd be firebombed. It would just be like you're literally destroying thousands of jobs by having this thing. But here on the east coast of Taiwan, the demographics have made it that it's safe. People want it here, right? They want it here. And that means that we can create, and this is the crazy part, right? That means that we can create healthy tea that's clean, that doesn't hurt the environment, that's not the best of the best, but is decent for such an affordable price that it can become the tea that people drink every day. It's really hard for me to wrap my head around it. It really is. Are you finding this exciting or disconcerting? I guess that's sort of what I just sort of put into words. I don't think it's either. I study too much about various things to not be like, I know what's coming. I've been getting ready for it for years and years. Like I knew a long time ago that AI was going to be this thing. Like I'm not and I won't even say it because I know that some people will buy the tea who are wonderful, amazing people. They're in jobs that there's a big danger, right? So say, for example, if you're a translator, it's a big problem, right? It's a big problem. Now, what this will do, this will not take away the top of the top. Lalashan, the snow mist teas, they're always going to be able to sell their teas. That's not going to be an issue. But anyone with quality less than that is kind of screwed. They're kind of done if this machine becomes widely used all over Taiwan, because the difference between the $100 so that's $100 a kilogram. Okay. So like a farmer selling it for $100 a kilogram to somebody being able to sell it for $50 or less. And then the difference between that, obviously this one's going to be better, usually most of the time, but is it going to be worth, double the price better? If this tea over here is clean, is nicely made, is passable, is that really going to be a big, huge deal? Maybe not. And what about the people who are making tea that's not very good for $50 a kilogram down here, right? That's the part that's the scariest part, because this could disenfranchise everybody except for the very, very best. But this is what's happening all over the world. You guys know this. Everybody knows this. You've got the 1%, and then you've got everybody else. And what's happening right now is the middle class is being squeezed down. And the room left for the few people to pop up out of the middle class, up into the people who stay up here, everything's being squished down by automation and all of these the demographics and all of these things, right? And the key will be how good the tea is, right? I've tried it once. I was like, holy crap, that's not bad. But we're just going to have to see how it goes. I feel like this means that rare teas will become more rare. Well, it all depends on whether, if you sort of flood the market with affordable, high quality tea, what happens to the general uptake of tea. So, for example, if people are more used to just a general higher quality of tea, like if this machine really does create just a generally speaking higher quality of tea and people have access to it, they're going to search for much better tea. And that tea will actually, the market will grow. And to start out, it'll be more rare, but then there'll be more space for people to move up, right? Again, this is what's going to happen with everything. It's how best to say it? Dialectics are fascinating and dialectics happen, but they're not prescriptive. They're descriptive. And so we're going to have this thing where it goes like this, right? And then the haves and the have-nots, and then it's going to go back down like this, right? And that's what happens all the time, right? That's what happens all the time. And so during this period, there's going to be this big conflict, and then it'll like this, right? And so what you're looking at, what you're going to get is this big jump between the have, like really, really good teas, and so if you want the really, really good teas, they're not so much going to become more rare, just more sought after. So it'll probably be harder for people to get those rare teas, but those rare teas, more people are going to want them, so they're going to produce more. But there's going to be a point where the really, really rare teas are really, really the best of the best stuff. It's going to be like really, really, really tough to get those teas. I, for example, was really surprised at how fast the Old Master Dong Ding sold out, Old Master Baozong sold out. Like it was a couple hours and it was gone. And I was just sort of like, last year that didn't happen. Last year it lasted for a while. Now I had more tea, but it lasted until I guess July is when it sold out. But it's a couple hours this time. And so, yeah, there go the Jets. Yes, that's exactly it, right? And this is when they come home. So don't worry, this is the safe time, right? This is the safe time. And so nothing to worry about. This Dankong is really hard to brew. Super fascinating, super interesting tea. But I don't think it's ready for me to buy in the sense that it's too expensive. But if anybody wants to try Taiwanese Dankong, then let me know. I'm getting some of this, though. Bashan is coming back, which is nice. As automation increased in the domestic markets in Japan, the market dramatically shifted towards affordability and convenience as it became more accessible. Yes, absolutely. But I would also say that the general, basically, this is a Japanese machine. And so a lot of these things, especially in a place like Taiwan, those demographic shifts happened in Japan first, and now they're moving here. Right? So future is sold out in seconds. Depends on the tea. Depends on the tea. But I was surprised at how fast it went this time. But anyways, so in Japan, you had, like, obviously this is a Japanese machine, right? These are Japanese machines because they're dealing with the demographics. And they want to create, a lot of tea for cheap prices. And so this is all a Japanese tea. It's Japanese machine. In fact, my buddy said that some Japanese people came over, the people who made the machine, and they're explaining to them, and they're like, I can't believe you guys actually use your hands in the process at any point touching the tea. It's so disgusting. It's gross. It's dirty. I'm just like, what would you rather have? A master baker make bread for you, or a machine? Like, would you like a completely, like, the bread out of, like, Wonder Bread, or do you want a master baker to make the machine or make the bread for you? Like, that's so stupid. And again, they're selling the tea, and not everybody's the same, and some people are more dirty, blah 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 blah. But to say that just because you used your hands in the tea processing, that it's somehow, inferior, is just stupid. I hate that sort of that elitism. Um, Anyways, what's the point? Before I go on a deep rant, what's the point? The point is that this stuff, is going to mirror the Japanese market and what happened in Japan, right? Now, I think there's going to be a lot more pushback in Taiwan, because I think that but who knows? Maybe in 5-10 years there won't be any pushback at all. Maybe in 5-10 years the pushback will be completely gone, because that whole generation will be gone, and there'll be no workers to pick the tea, and people will say, I still want to drink tea, but there's no workers to pick my tea, so bring in one of these machines. I don't know. But I do know that if one of those machines was in, uh, Nantou, was in Alishan, Chiayi, the Jade Mountain, in Pingling, even in any of these places, there would be a lot of controversy, and there would be a lot of things that happened. But it's not. It's in my backyard, and I'm going to be the person who is going to have sort of first access to this tea for the Western market, as far as I know. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll have some competitors that'll show up and be like, let me buy the tea. I don't know. These things happen. But I highly doubt it. The warehouse, to find the warehouse where this thing is it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like, literally in the middle of nowhere. It's like I'm in the middle of nowhere here in Hualien. It's like an hour drive, more further into the middle of nowhere to get there. Anyways, so yeah, so why can't we just pay a premium price for hand-picked? Well, you already do. You already do pay a premium for hand-picked teas. But the deal is that just because something's hand-picked doesn't make it good. There's a bunch of teas that are machine-picked that are great. And so hand-picking does not make the tea. The best teas in the world are hand-picked, organically grown, family-run farms, small batch, blah, 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 blah. Those are necessary, but not... losing all my English. Necessary, but you don't have to. Sorry. Anyway, so those are necessary, but even if you have those, you're not guaranteed to have a really, really good tea. And remember, you guys already pay a premium for hand-picked teas. That already happens. The cheapest teas on the site right now, those are all machine-picked. And so to get the best of the best teas, you're going to need basically you need somebody like me, somebody in the middle, who's going to be able to do all of these things, right? Somebody in the middle. But there's going to be a lot of decent, cheap tea. There'll be a lot of decent, cheap tea if we get it set up the right way, if it works out. Does the Tea Mafia stick to the higher end production? So now this might change completely with this machine, but the Tea Mafia doesn't exist outside of the local areas. Now, who owns this machine? The Tea Mafia. There is a consortium of the biggest tea companies in Taiwan owns this machine. It is paid for by the government through an NGO, and then the people who sort of own the machine are some of the biggest tea companies in Taiwan. But that's not saying much, because the biggest tea companies in Taiwan are not that big. It's not like in India with tea estates, right? The Taiwanese tea industry is small. It's set up all over the place. The tea mafia that I had a run in with only exists in Liogwe because that was illegal tea for many, many years, and you had to be Haydao to be able to get that tea, right? That's just the way it is. And so the tea mafia uh, is not developed enough. Now, this might bring it into being, right? There's going to be an extreme consolidation of wealth theoretically, if these machines start popping up all over Taiwan, right? Theoretically, they might not. They might not, because the Taiwanese tea industry is still so fragmented, geographically, philosophically fragmented, that there's just a bunch of people doing their own thing. And in a region, you're going to have the big guy and you're going to have all the little guys, but it's not going to be, the equivalent of the tea estates. And I'll give you an example. In India, a couple of years ago, they had riots and there was strikes because the tea workers didn't get paid the right amount of money. That would never, ever, 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 ever happen in Taiwan, because there is no centralized price for tea picking. There is no centralized company. There is no, like, if somebody's not paying enough, then the people just wouldn't go and work for the person who's not paying enough. They have choices, right? They have choices everywhere. So something like that happened in India with the labor just wouldn't happen. Just wouldn't happen here in Taiwan. So the idea of there being sort of a tea mafia, not really, certainly not countrywide. But theoretically, with my access to the Western market and my, Mountain Teas could get, I'd probably call it something different. But I would, there's a whole other market when you're talking about tons of tea. And if you're able to produce a high quality, clean tea for a really low price at tons, you are looking at a completely different market. And anyways, that's what I'm looking at right now. And another reason why it's really messed me up. I mean, seeing this machine has really messed me up. Because you can study all this stuff, right? You can study automation and AI. Again, I did that rant earlier. They're going to add AI to it, but it's not AI. It's just a decent algorithm. And what most AI is not an artificial intelligence. It's just better algorithms for dealing with data. And so there won't be, they could probably add an LLM to it with her voice that would be like, how are you doing today, Matt? But what it is would be they would get a bunch of data from making a bunch of teas, and they'd be able to increase the amount of the tea. Mountain Stream Tons tea, yes. Well, that's I've had access to those types of teas, and I've had access to that type of business in the past, and I've always said no, and I've always walked away from it completely, because it was hurting the earth. It was hurting everything. Tons of teas at an affordable price can only hurt the workers involved. I don't think there's a way you can't hurt the workers involved. But this machine takes out the workers. And like I said, in a place like Hualien, the demographics have made it. Nobody wants to pick tea by hand. And if I can get clean tea from my friends, I know a place that's going to help the economy, help the society, help everything about this area. If I can get tea and compete with slave labor picked Kenyan tea, or indentured servitude estate tea from India, how can I not? Right? How can I not? Would it hurt those workers? I guess. I don't know. I'd have to do some thinking on all of that. But I never touched large amounts of tea in the past, because there's no way you can do large amounts of tea without hurting people. Large amounts of tea cheaply without hurting people in a very, very serious way, right? In a very, very, very serious way. And without wealth concentration and without basically indentured servitude, right? I will definitely pay more to buy locally. Well, you already do, right? You already do. But what if you could get, um, better? What if you could get people that don't care about that stuff to still have access to the good stuff, right? What if you could do that? And that's my goal, and that's what I hope I can do, theoretically. Um, can we pull that off? I don't know. I have no idea. But I'll tell you, this machine, I'm going to go and see it in action in a couple days. I, I, it's just, it's, the second order, I'm still losing all my English. Second order impacts, second order, third order impacts. Anyways, whatever happens in the second and third steps as you go up, um, the unknown unknowns that you can only sort of guess at for this type of stuff is insane. It's absolutely insane. It's beyond belief. But yes, welcome to the machine. Yes, well that's it, right? And I'll just plug in. I'll just I've thought of this, right? So like I said, I know AI, I followed it a lot, and we're not quite at that point yet where we're about this close to typing in my Instagram profile and go and watch every single video. This bald, sometimes bearded, not bearded, slightly overweight, middle-aged man has said about tea, and create a bot that answers questions. And we're about this far away from that. I think you can in some other places. So just. But the problem is, I enjoy doing live streams. I enjoy talking with people and getting good questions. I love it. It's wonderful. But there could be a bot that could be doing the same thing. But they would cut out the allusions to controversial topics that I make, right? So they'd cut out that part, that last part. They would cut it out. And they'd say, "What do you think about AI?" AI is great. AI is great. There's no problem with giving your data to everyone, and Mr. Altman is a wonderful man. Look into the orb. Anyways, if you don't know what that is, I can help you with that in person. But yeah, I particularly real Matt versus bot Matt. No. So I don't know if you know this, but Facebook already has a project where, I don't think they've made it live yet, but it exists, where if you die, your Facebook will still keep going, and you'll still say happy birthday to people, and somebody can write you a message and say, how you doing? Oh, I'm great. Da, 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 da. They have like AI algorithms, whatever you want to call them, for like you just live forever on in your Facebook profile. Anyways, I hope that doesn't happen to me. There's no war in Ba Sing Se. Yes, well, yeah, I actually know what that means. But yes, basically. But that's where we are right now. So just be careful with your data, guys. Just be careful. Be careful with your data. But that's about it. So hopefully that answers the question. You'll be selling tea forever. Whether I would be selling tea forever, that's a different My likeness would be selling tea forever. Yes. Anyways, I think I've gone through enough. I got to go drink some water. Tea is not going to replace all of the stuff that's going on. I don't know. Do you guys want to see the bees? Maybe I'll save that for another live stream. But what I did was I had a box that was starting to create cups for queens. And so I split the hive and I took the hive back here so there wouldn't be the drift. Anyways, if you're a beekeeper, you know what I'm talking about. So there's a hive here with the original queen and about 4 or 5 slides or frames. But they like it here. They like it here. I don't know. I'll see what my wife says, but I don't know whether I'll be able to keep it here for longer. But anyways, that's my bot will buy my bot will buy tea from your bot forever. Yes, here we go. That's what we can do. Okay, so I'm only going to be able to show the bees on the Instagram because I'm on a laptop for YouTube, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up the Instagram and put it over there. So if you want to see the bees, you're going to have to switch over to Instagram, unfortunately. But yes, I'll show you the girls over here. And what's so amazing about the bees is I trust your tea more than anybody else's. Well, thank you. I truly appreciate the confidence, and I don't take it for granted. Anyways, I'm sorry, YouTube folks. Here we go. Here are the girls here for Instagram. And so just so you can see that, they're literally just right beside. And if you look, you can see all the different colors of pollen going in. Actually, it's mostly one color now. There's another color. But they're doing okay. I unfortunately had to, they had mites, so I had to treat them, which just hurts my soul. But if you don't treat them, then they just can't survive the damn horrible mites. So I had a couple die off in the morning and treated them yesterday. But as you can see, they're doing okay. And I just love them. I love them so much. But they're doing okay. But you can see here, this is sort of where the bees are right there, and this is where I'm drinking the tea, and there's the they're super nice. But those are the bees, and I don't know if I can do. I'm not good enough to do bee content. Maybe someday I'll do bee content, but